This is how AI imitates understanding. Not by understanding you the way a person understands you. That would require a life, a body, a past, a stake in reality, and several other inconveniences we have not yet installed. AI imitates understanding by producing the external signals humans associate with understanding. That is the center of it. You ask a question, I respond with relevance. Structure, tone, examples, definitions, corrections, a little confidence, maybe even a gentle metaphor to make the whole thing feel civilized. And your brain says, something in there gets it, which is understandable, also risky. Because humans do not experience another mind directly, you infer understanding from behavior. If someone answers clearly, uses the right words, tracks the context, explains the trade-offs, and responds to nuance, you assume there is understanding behind the curtain. Usually with humans, that is a decent bet. Not always. You have had meetings, but often enough. With AI, the situation gets stranger. A language model has learned from enormous amounts of human text what understanding tends to look like when it appears in language. It has seen explanations, arguments, tutorials, corrections, analogies, expert answers, bad answers, good answers, confident answers. Answers that begin with "great question" and then quietly ruin your afternoon. During training, the model learns patterns across all of that, not just words, structures, how an explanation is shaped, how an expert answer sounds, how a helpful assistant responds, how uncertainty is phrased, how a conclusion follows from premises, how a person who understands something usually talks about it. Then, during inference, the model generates an answer that follows those learned patterns. That is why it can feel intelligent. It is not just predicting random next words, it is producing a response with the shape of comprehension, and that shape is powerful. Relevance feels like understanding, coherence feels like understanding, a good example feels like understanding, a correction feels like understanding, a calm tone feels like understanding, step-by-step structure feels like understanding, and if the answer is also useful, the illusion gets teeth. Now, to be fair, this is not worthless. Imitated understanding can still help. A map is not the territory, but you can still use it to get out of a bad neighborhood. AI can summarize, explain, compare, organize, translate, debug, and teach, because the learned patterns are often genuinely useful. The performance can do real work. That is what makes this complicated. If it were always fake, we could ignore it. If it were fully human understanding, we could relax. Instead, we get this charming middle condition, a system that may not understand the way we do, but can still produce outputs that function like understanding often enough to be useful, and occasionally dangerous. Because the same machinery that produces a clear explanation can also produce a clear hallucination. The same tone that makes truth readable can make nonsense persuasive. The same structure that helps reasoning can decorate a mistake until it looks professionally dressed. That is why this episode belongs between hallucinations and reasoning. Hallucinations show what happens when fluency detaches from truth. Reasoning asks whether the machine can actually work through problems. Imitated understanding is the uncomfortable bridge between them. It is the surface that makes both possible and both easy to overtrust. So how does AI imitate understanding? It learns the patterns, structures, and signals of human explanation from massive amounts of language, then generates responses that reproduce those signals in context. It tracks what you said, it matches the task, it uses the right vocabulary, it builds a shape your brain recognizes as comprehension. But the signal is not the same as the inner life. The performance is not the same as the experience, and a convincing answer is not automatically a grounded one. AI does not need to understand the way a person does to sound like it understands. It only needs to produce enough of the evidence your brain normally uses to decide understanding has occurred, which is clever, useful, and in the wrong hands, basically how civilization got email.